For 22 years, a man walked into FBI headquarters every morning, shook hands with colleagues, attended security briefings, and went home to his wife and 6 children. He attended church every Sunday. He was known as brilliant, loyal, and deeply patriotic. He was also handing the most sensitive secrets in American history to the Soviet Union and Russia. His name was Robert Hanssen. The CIA called his betrayal the worst intelligence disaster in United States history. This is how he did it and how no one noticed for over 2 decades. Robert Philip Hanssen is born in 1944 in Chicago, Illinois. His father, Howard Hanssen, is a police officer known for being cold, controlling, and cruel. He regularly humiliates his son, telling him he will never amount to anything, forcing him to undergo psychological tests as a child to prove his inadequacy. Psychologists who later study Hanssen's case point to this relationship as foundational. He grows up desperate to prove he is the smartest man in any room and equally desperate to hide that need from everyone around him. He studies chemistry, then dentistry, then switches to accounting. He joins the Chicago Police Department in 1972, then transfers to the FBI in 1976. From the outside, he is building a respectable career. Inside, something else is forming. In 1979, just 3 years into his FBI career, Hanssen makes his first contact with Soviet intelligence. He walks into the New York office of a Soviet trade organization and volunteers classified information, no recruitment, no coercion, no ideology. He simply offers. His first package includes the identity of a Soviet military officer who had been secretly working for the FBI. That man, General Dmitry Polyakov, is later executed. Hanssen receives $30,000. He then does something that puzzles investigators for decades. He stops. He goes silent for 2 years. Some analysts believe he was testing the system, seeing if the FBI would notice the leak and trace it back to him. They do not. Satisfied that he is invisible, he resumes contact in 1981. This time, he will not stop for 20 years. What Robert Hanssen gave to the Soviet Union and later Russia is almost incomprehensible in its scope. He revealed the identities of 3 Soviet officers working as double agents for the United States. All 3 were executed. He disclosed the existence of a secret tunnel the NSA had dug beneath the Soviet embassy in Washington to intercept communications, a project that cost hundreds of millions of dollars and was immediately abandoned. He provided the complete details of America's nuclear war strategy, including the locations of continuity of government bunkers, the timetables for launching a first strike, and the precise vulnerabilities in America's early warning systems. He gave them the blueprints for how the United States would fight and survive a nuclear war. The Soviets had wanted this information for 40 years. What made Hanssen almost impossible to catch was his discipline. He violated every standard spy playbook deliberately. He never met his handlers in person. He communicated exclusively through dead drops, hiding packages in prearranged locations, retrieving cash and instructions left by the Russians at different sites. He never told the Russians his real name. They knew him only as Ramon Garcia. He refused to accept communications equipment, worried it could be traced. He studied FBI counterintelligence methods professionally because it was his job and used that knowledge to stay invisible. On one occasion, he correctly identified a mole hunting investigation within the FBI and maneuvered himself away from suspicion. He was not just a spy. He was a counterintelligence expert hiding inside the institution hunting spies. Outside the FBI, Robert Hanssen presented a picture of conservative American virtue. He was a devout Catholic and a member of Opus Dei, one of the most traditional organizations within the church. He and his wife Bonnie raised 6 children. He taught Sunday school. Colleagues who knew him described him as intensely religious, deeply private, and occasionally arrogant. He was known for correcting his supervisors in meetings openly, in front of others, and for dismissing co-workers he considered intellectually inferior. The FBI transferred him repeatedly, not because they suspected him, but because he was difficult to work with. Each transfer gave him access to new classified programs. His supervisors were moving a spy deeper into secrets they were trying to protect. 3 men died directly because of Robert Hanssen. Valery Martinov, a KGB officer secretly providing intelligence to the FBI, is recalled to Moscow in 1985 and executed. Sergei Motorin, another double agent working for the CIA, disappears the same year and is executed. General Dmitry Polyakov, perhaps the most valuable intelligence asset the United States had ever recruited inside Soviet military intelligence, is arrested in 1986 and shot. Polyakov had provided intelligence to America for over 20 years. Investigators who reconstructed the timeline determined that Hanssen had betrayed all 3 within months of learning their identities. He never acknowledged remorse for their deaths. When asked about it years later, he said only that they should have known the risks of their profession. For 2 decades, the FBI searches for a mole. They know secrets are leaking. They know agents are being burned. They investigate colleagues, run polygraphs, monitor communications. They never look seriously at Hanssen. Part of the reason is psychological. Hanssen fits no profile of a traitor. He is not in debt. He is not having an affair with a foreign national. He shows no signs of ideological sympathy for communism. He drinks rarely. He goes to church. The FBI's mole-hunting assumptions are built on the idea that traitors betray for money they need, for love, or for ideology. Hanssen betrayed for none of these, or rather, for all of them quietly, in a way no external indicator could detect. He once told a friend that the FBI was filled with people too arrogant to imagine a spy could be smarter than them. He was right. For 22 years. The case breaks not through FBI detective work but through a purchase. In 2000, American intelligence agencies pay a former Russian intelligence officer a sum reported at $7 million for a file. The file contains a fingerprint and a garbage bag. The fingerprint is from a dead drop package, the plastic bag that had held classified documents. The FBI runs the print. It matches Robert Hanssen. For the investigators who receive this result, the moment is described as physically nauseating. They pull his file. They begin reconstructing 22 years of leaks. They find that Hanssen had been handling some of the most sensitive counterintelligence programs in the country for the entire period he was spying. He had been their colleague. He had attended their retirement parties. He had reviewed some of the investigations that were hunting him. On February 18, 2001, Robert Hanssen drives to Foxstone Park in Vienna, Virginia, a wooded area he has used for dead drops for years. FBI surveillance teams watch from the trees. He parks, walks to a pre-arranged location, and places a package beneath a wooden footbridge. As he turns to leave, agents close in. Hanssen looks at them for a moment. Then he says, "What took you so long?" He is 66 years old. He has been spying since 1979. His last package contains 7 classified documents. In his car, investigators find $50,000 in cash from his most recent Russian payment. He is arrested without incident. That evening, the FBI begins the process of calculating exactly how much damage one man had done. The damage assessment takes months. Investigators determined that Hanssen had compromised more than 6,000 pages of classified documents. He had revealed the names of every Soviet source the FBI and CIA were running, killing 3 of them. He had given away the identities of American intelligence officers stationed overseas. He had sold the blueprints of the American nuclear war plan and the locations of classified command bunkers built to survive a nuclear strike. He had disclosed a highly classified program detailing how the U.S. government would function after a nuclear war. The total cost to American national security, in compromised programs and burned assets, is assessed in the billions. The director of the FBI calls it the worst intelligence disaster in the history of the United States. Several analysts believe it is the worst in the history of any Western intelligence agency. Robert Hanssen pleads guilty to 15 counts of espionage and conspiracy in July 2001. As part of his plea agreement, he cooperates with debriefing sessions, agreeing to explain in detail everything he gave away and how. In exchange, the government agrees not to seek the death penalty and to provide financial support for his wife. He is sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. At his sentencing, he makes a brief statement. He says, "I apologize for my behavior. I am ashamed of my behavior." The judge responds that his words ring hollow given the deaths he caused. Hanssen is sent to the Supermax Federal Prison in Florence, Colorado, the same facility that houses terrorists and cartel leaders. He spends the remaining 21 years of his life in a cell measuring 7 by 12 feet, in near total isolation, 23 hours a day. Robert Hanssen died in his prison cell on June 5, 2023. He was 79 years old. He never fully explained why. The money, roughly $1.4 million over 22 years, he largely did not spend. Most of it sat in accounts his family never knew about. The ideology, he insisted to the end that he hated communism. The thrill, investigators who debriefed him believe this comes closest. He once told a debriefer that outsmarting the FBI was the most intellectually satisfying experience of his life. A man who grew up being told he was worthless spent his entire career proving to an audience that could never know that he was the smartest person in the room. The tragedy is not only what he did. It is that no one will ever fully understand why a person with everything he had built could not stop destroying it. Robert Hanssen passed every background check, passed every polygraph, attended every security briefing, and for 22 years, handed everything he learned to America's greatest adversary. His case permanently changed how the FBI handles internal security. It proved that the most dangerous threat to any institution is often the one it trusts most completely. If this story kept you watching, subscribe now. Every week we cover the betrayals, the cover-ups, and the cold cases that history almost buried. Turn on notifications. The next story is already waiting.